All right, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Derek's Travel Chats. I hope everyone had a wonderful holiday for those in different parts of the country. I know some have it as a holiday and some don't, but I hope yesterday you took time to sit back and reflect on the lives of all the soldiers who gave the ultimate sacrifice for us to live free this year or in the past 100 years. So thank you for those who took the time and to wear a poppy and to show their respects. So, but today we're again talking about travel and what you can expect that, hopefully with the news of a vaccine just around the corner, that maybe you can start thinking about planning that next vacation. And today we're going to talk about cruise. And I have with me Guillaume Cameron of Oceania Cruise Line. And welcome, Guillaume.
Thank you.
Oceania Cruise Line is a medium-sized ship cruise company. And Guillaume is originally from Scotland, now living on the west coast of Canada, and has been in the cruise career since 2000, Guillaume?
Yeah, early 2000s, yeah.
And he's sailed a lot more than I have. He's got over 300 cruises under his belt, and so we look forward to hearing what Oceania have to offer us as vacationers as we get back to a new normal and try to move forward from what we've been living through in 2020. So, Guillaume, again, welcome to Derek's Travel Chats. It's a pleasure to have you on board.
Thank you very much for having me, and good morning, good afternoon, I guess, wherever you are in Canada today.
So, Guillaume, everybody has had to struggle with with COVID and the shutdown, and then trying to see where our businesses are going to go in the future. And so, how has Oceania been able to deal with that task and moving forward?
Well, it's an interesting question. It's funny because Oceania ourselves, we had a lot of tendencies that kind of related to the post-COVID world anyway, set up in the first place. So, like for example, even though we had buffets on board, we actually had zero-touch buffets where, our crew would actually serve you. So we had a lot of kind of tendencies leaning that way there. Luckily, as a whole fleet, we had no reported cases, and we were one of the first ones to actually kind of close down altogether. So, and it has also been interesting as well in terms of a lot of the clientele that we have with Oceania. Originally, when we started putting pauses on our sailings, we had almost around about high 60 to 70% of guests saying, you know what, just keep our money and we're looking to go 21 or 22. We've obviously, it's been a huge impact for everybody across the industry there. But with the new guidelines coming in place and some of the details that I'll provide in the talk here today, hopefully I'll give you guys a little bit of confidence in terms of how we're willing to protect our guests and how our we're built on a few different pillars originally when we were first set up, and how those pillars are going to lend themselves into this post-COVID world as well. So, I'll be happy to kind of share all that information as we go through this talk today.
All right, well, thanks, Guillaume. So I'll let you just press the right buttons there now to share the screen for people to see your presentation and get a sense of Oceania and the type of ship that you offer and the programs that you offer on board. So as they say, the floor is yours, but I guess on this one is the deck is yours.
Oh, well, thank you very much. So, and if you do have any questions, just please keep typing them in for Derek there. I'll try to answer everything at the end of the presentation here. So, I mean, thank you so much for joining me today. As Derek mentioned as well, we're very conscious at Oceania as well, wherever you are in terms of your confidence and willing to travel. We're working towards those steps to try and get back to some sort of new normalcy. One of the things that we'll kind of ask you to think about is remember the future. I guess a lot of you are here because the plans in 2020 were on pause. And one of the things that we're asking our guests is to kind of remember the future, remember what inspired them to travel in the first place. Remember those destinations that were out there for you, where you want to visit and be on your list there. And as we move forward, wherever position you're in, if it's in the planning stages or just simply the dreaming stages right now, Derek and Oceania are going to be with you for whatever steps you're at going forward. So obviously, we did mention a little bit in terms of how COVID's moving forward. Recently, there's been some announcement through the CDC where Oceania has been working quite closely with to develop protocols and safety information to get back to healthy and safe cruising for you. And that's going to be the most paramount thing for Oceania Cruises. Right now, we are working through the details with the CDC. They recently just released like 40-page recommendations on how to get back to healthy sailing again. We'll be working towards those. And for more information, either speak to Derek or go to our website, which is oceaniacruises.com/health. Right now, there's more general specifications on this. And as we move to sail again, the specifics will be available on this page to answer any questions that you have. But as mentioned, Oceania ourselves, we were created around about 17 years ago, so in the early 2000s. And as Oceania, we really kind of set ourselves up on these three pillars, as we call themselves, of really trying to excel at these three different things when it came to cruising. And that was our small ship luxury, our exquisitely crafted cuisine, and a brilliant curated travel experience. Now, within that message, and Derek is here to help you along the way, but it's funny, to me, I was an advisor a few years ago myself, and it's funny, every cruise line talks about how great their ships are. Every cruise line talks about how great the destination they travel to is, and especially every cruise line talks about how great their cuisine is. So today I'd just like to explain a little bit about how Oceania differentiate in these three things to deliver you an experience. And really with Oceania, we're here to try and create memories for you. And this is how we try to do it with these experiences here. So I'll start off with our small ship luxury. We have two different styles of classes of vessels. Our first class is what we call our regatta class vessels. They're made up of 6 beautiful little ships. Best way to probably think about these are just boutique hotels at sea. That's made up of the Regatta, the Nautica, the Insignia, and the Serena. And you can see at full occupancy, we're just at 684 guests. So the way that we can kind of deliver a slightly different experience is obviously it's going to be a little bit more manageable for you with the amount of guests that are on board. We have a fantastic guest to crew ratio as well to really make that difference whilst you're on board. Being an ex-crew member myself, it's an awful lot easier to look after, like 1.5 of you opposed to 1 in 4. And that really goes into dedicated experience. And it's funny, whenever anybody goes on an Oceania sailing, they always come back with the kind of small memories. So these small memories may be, if you're barista, if you take a double shot espresso in the morning, the barista's probably on the second day is going to remember that you're doing that. So it goes a long way into it. The other vessels that we have in our fleet are the Oceania class, built up of the Marina and the Riviera. These are actually custom built towards Oceania. And at capacity, you can see they're only at 1,250 guests, and with a guest ratio of 1.5 to 1. So it's, again, that experience goes a long way into making you feel comfortable whilst you're on board. And this goes into something that we call our residential design. Now, the way that we tend to design our ships, we try to do this in a unique fashion on board, where each piece is well thought out in regards to in regards to where it's located on the ship. So, for example, we're not going to go out and spend, try to get 4,000 seats that are all the same so that we get a huge discount on that amount of furniture. No, we're going to go in to get unique little pieces to make you feel comfortable whilst you're on board. This goes into, for example, like our curated art collection. So to give you an example, on the Marina and the Riviera, we almost have $7 million worth of art on board this vessel. And it's just something that our guests can actually take a guided tour of as they go around the ship. We have lots of different interactive experiences whilst on board. Again, on the larger vessels, we have cooking schools that are available that are always popular, always sell out. There's a great sense of space on board. Many of our guests share common interests as well, so you'll tend to find that there's so many conversations getting started up on board. We have great social areas on board, great restaurants, and great public spaces where people share all this experience. And to give you an idea of how we kind of deliver slightly differently, this is kind of how we measure up regards to some of these larger vessels. This really goes into some of the ways that we're able to get into the destinations that simply these large vessels can't get into. And that just gives you a little bit of a side-by-side comparison of what Oceania provide. And just to give you an overall view of some of our accommodation and the comfort level. I was lucky enough to be on a cruise last December, and I was able to have one of these beautiful veranda staterooms on our O-class vessel, and actually has a bathtub in it. So it was my small thing for my wife, where she was like, "Wow, this place actually has a bathtub on board my cabin here." It's so again, those small little things that make a big difference. And it really goes into our crew that we have on board. We have crew from all over the world that really try to make that experience more special for you. To give you an example as well, we produce some fantastic curated videos, and one of them features one of our maitre d's on board, and there's so many people that will go up and hug this guy and be like, "Dominic, how are things going?" And I do a lot of these presentations, so I see this video, once or twice a week. And again, luckily enough, not this January, but January past, I was on board our refurbished Insignia Around the World ship, and he was on board. So I kind of felt like I had to introduce myself because I saw this guy so often. And, it was amazing the amount of people that would come up and talk to him, and he would remember them. So again, that level of service is just something that makes a big difference. I'll move on to our cuisine, and really this is where Oceania excels itself, and where we're probably most renowned throughout the cruise industry. We have an exquisitely crafted cuisine, and how we do this is in a few different ways. So first off, it starts off with our team that we have on board. In the top right-hand corner there, we have Monsieur Jacques Pepin. He was kind of one of the first celebrity chefs, very famous from that Julia Child era. And Jacques himself is actually a master chef. Now, there's probably roughly maybe, I think, 400 to 500 master chefs in the world entirely. At Oceania, we actually employ 3 master chefs, and Jacques himself oversees our menu in our main dining room. And one of the things that we really try to do with our team, and where this makes a big difference to a lot of our guests, is our team cooks à la minute. So what that means is when the waiter is taking your order and he brings it into the kitchen, that's where and when it's being prepared. We're not one of these operations where we have 3,000 or 4,000 guests, and for us to be ready by 6 p.m. at night, we have to have everything prepped at 6 a.m. in the morning ready to go. No, we cook there and then on the spot. That makes a big difference in the taste. And another reason that we make a big difference in the taste is our ingredients. We'll try and source locally as much as possible. You know, for example, we'll have fresh lobster flown in from Maine on ice overnight so that our guests can enjoy these just beautiful different tastes that we have on board. You know, for example, as well, you know, Jacques himself is French. So bread and butter are so important to the French that we actually have specially milled flour come over from France so that we can make fresh French bread and pastries in the morning from scratch. And it makes a huge difference. And another way that we want this to be different for our guests is in the settings that we have available to you. We do not charge anything for our specialty restaurants. We want our guests to be able to enjoy the food. We have no formal nights on board as well. It's quite a common misconception with Oceania that because, you know, it's a more of a upper premium experience that it's more formal. No, not at all. We want our guests to be able to enjoy the experience. So no formal nights. They can eat in the main dining room when and where they want to. If you need a table of 2, no problem. If you want to have a larger table, no problem as well. The setting is open for you as guests, and we really want you to. You know, one of the things that I always say as well is nobody's going to buy a cruise for the food itself. But if you're sailing on Oceania for the first time, it's going to probably be the first thing you're going to talk about when you get back home. It also goes into our curated travel experience as well, and how, as I mentioned as well, because we're slightly smaller, we can do things slightly differently to a lot of the other larger vessels. We can get into the small different ports of call, the boutique ports of call that the large ships simply can't do. And how we deliver this differently as well is we'll have different types of itineraries throughout the world, starting from as little as 7 days in the Caribbean, all the way up to our world cruise of 180 days. We have one of the longest world cruises in the marketplace, and we do have all these different unique ports of call that we'll go into. We'll also try and be in ports of call more often and longer. So you'll see many different itineraries where we have overnights. To give you a typical itinerary as well, we have a 10-night sailing here in April of 21. And in that 10 days, I think there's only one stay at sea. So we are visiting many of these boutique ports of call that were actually specially curated from our owner, who specifically wanted to go into these different destinations. And again, to give you a slightly different idea of how we deliver this, this is a sailing next year in June, starting from Barcelona, going all the way to London, where we have overnights in Lisbon, Seville, and Bordeaux. And it's important for our guests to seek into these different destinations. And really, a lot of the Oceania guests are very intrepid at heart and want to see these different destinations. Another one that was proven really popular is our sailings through the Greek Isles, and we're actually sailing back into Istanbul for the first time. We actually yesterday just recently launched our new 2022 itineraries. I'm quite excited. We're going back into the Black Sea, which is a really interesting itinerary that we try and do. And again, another example of something where we go a little bit off the beaten path here is a sailing next year, starting from Stockholm, finishing in London. Not only we pretty much hit the top of the world here going into the North Cape, but we'll go into Russia, into Archangel. So again, a path a little less well known, and going into all these small different types of port of call that are not totally associated with sailing and cruising. And again, just to kind of give you an idea of some different types of itineraries and some longer itineraries we do, you can do also back-to-backs available with us, where we'll offer an additional discount if you decide to do a second sailing with us. So obviously that first part that you saw started out of Stockholm, but you can sail all the way through to make this a round trip from Stockholm, going all the way up into Greenland, all the way up into Iceland, and into Ireland as well. We don't repeat an awful lot of itineraries, but one that we will repeat year in, year out, and this is kind of one of our marquee sailings, is our 30-day Dubai to Cape Town sailing. And how we deliver slightly differently on this is when our guests actually reach into Durban, they have the opportunity where they can leave the ship and do an overland tour and do a safari and meet up with the ship whilst it gets back into Cape Town just prior to the end of sailing. We'll do an awful lot of overland opportunities. So there's different types of sailings that have ports that are inland that you may not have necessarily associated with cruising before. We actually, after this sailing, we have a Cape Town to Singapore, and then we have a Singapore back over to Dubai. And when you reach up into Goa, you can actually, again, leave the ship for a few days and go up into the kingdoms of Bhutan and Nepal. So again, something that you might not totally associate with sailing. And again, just to show you how we do things slightly differently, we also have a sailing in 2022 that goes up the west coast of Africa, and again, a little less traveled. There's not many sailings that will go up the west coast of Africa, but really kind of giving you these, these, again, remembering the future, these different types of ports of call, like Dakar, and then going into Walvis Bay up in Namibia as well. And again, just to showcase.
I see that one comes into St. John's.
Yes, as well. It goes all the way into St. John's. So maybe drop off just at home there for you, Derek. And then just to kind of give you a really popular sailing actually out of Eastern Canada is our round trip Papeete sailing into Tahiti. Always a really, really popular sailing. We circumnavigate Australia. Not many cruise lines are doing this as well, so giving you the opportunity to go all the way up into Komodo, and then visiting West Coast Australia and going all the way down into Tasmania as well. So again, these opportunities are very, very different. We actually, in 2022, we'll be heading all the way down into the Antarctic as well to see different types of ports of call. So I'm going through the Chilean fjords. And again, how we deliver slightly differently. We're small enough to sail up the Amazon River. This sailing here, it's a round trip from Miami, roughly around about a year from now, actually, giving you 7 full days on the Amazon River, taking you all the way up into Manaus as well. And a different type of itinerary. Now, I know a lot of you may be interested in something that's a little bit closer to home. Sailings that have proved really very, very popular for next year and moving into 2022 are going to be our Alaska itineraries. You can see how we try and, again, deliver slightly differently. With me being on the West Coast, it's usually you start from Vancouver, you go up to Ketchikan, you go up to Skagway, you go into Juneau, and you come back to Vancouver. That's generally the way most cruise lines will do it. But we're going all the way up into Homer, into Kodiak, into Sitka. Again, some of these ports less well traveled. And actually, a good example of how we do things slightly differently. Vancouver, obviously a big home port for me here. You'll very rarely see us actually in the port of Vancouver over the course of the weekend. Why that is because that's when everybody else is in Vancouver. So even though we're going into some of these larger ports of call, we'll try and do this in a way that's a little bit more exclusive to you as well. And I guess in this new world of kind of social distancing as well, that will also kind of aid in terms of the safety for you too. And then closer to home here, we're going as Montreal to New York sailing. Again, we're small enough to be able to get under the bridge to make it all the way into Montreal. A lot of the sailings actually start at Quebec City because they're too big to get under the bridge. And really, how we deliver that experience when we're in these different ports of call, we have thousands of different types of tours available to you to really appeal to your interests. One of the most popular right now are what we call our Go Local tours. Those are where you're getting into the heart of the destination. You're sharing an experience with a local from that destination who they show you kind of day-to-day life within that. So, for example, if we're going into Italy, we'll be going into a farmhouse where you'll learn to cook Italian pasta with grandma. To give you that kind of idea. One of the things that we're really well renowned for as well is a lot of different sailings that are associated with wine. So we have a lot of different food and wine tours as well that really appeal to you. And really, these three things that I've talked about are all kind of intangibles, and how it kind of equates to the value for yourself whilst you're on board. At Oceania, when you see kind of the price tag with us, do remember we include quite a lot more. And even if you've sailed with other cruise lines, you may find that starting off with Oceania, these inclusions may already be right off the bat for you. So, for example, we will always include internet. People still want to stay connected these days and share their experiences. So it's important for our guests to be able to do that. So we will always include internet. As mentioned, we want the guests to enjoy the culinary experience, so all our specialty restaurants are included. And you know, those might include like our steak restaurant called Polo Grill, where you can have like a 24-ounce porter steak. And even if you're hankering for a cheeseburger at 2 in the morning after that, we have our 24-hour room service available to you. As mentioned, we generally tend to try and be in the city centre as often as possible. If not, we will also provide shuttles into the city centre where that's not available. So a good example of this is actually in Venice. The Port of Venice is slightly outside the centre of town. Everybody wants to go into St. Mark's Square. What we'll actually do is we'll lower tenders into the water, and we'll ferry people back and forth between St. Mark's Square and the Port of Venice to give them that ability to be a little bit more intrepid. Fitness classes are all included, so those would be things like yoga and Pilates. The only thing that we do charge for whilst on board would be the spa treatments themselves. Otherwise, again, included is all our bottled water, specialty drinks like smoothies and coffees and things like that. And if you're on one of those longer sailings, the laundrette, that's included in there for you too. And as a guy, that's my small takeaway with Oceania. Whenever I go on board, I usually bring a shirt with me. And to get a shirt ironed, I just want to do it myself. I don't want to spend $7 or $8 to get it ironed by the laundry. So that was my small thing where I was able to iron my own shirt, which was fantastic. And really how we build this up, this value to you as well, we offer something called O-Life Choice. Now, we offer free round-trip airfare from major gateways in Canada. I guess out of St. John is going to be classed as a secondary gateway. So we do have availability with add-ons with those ones, but our main gateways in Canada are going to be Toronto, Montreal, Ottawa, Vancouver, and Calgary. Then we will always include round-trip airfare here, and then we'll always give you a choice of either additional shore excursions included. Depending on the length of the cruise, we will give you more shore excursions. We'll either offer a beverage package available to you on board, or if you're kind of a little bit undecided and you want to do a shore excursion here, grab a couple of bottles of wine there, and maybe do a spa treatment, we'll offer a shipboard credit option. Generally, best value tends to lie with the shore excursions, and Derek is there to walk you through that process there as well. Mentioned recently, we have obviously, you know, with the impact of COVID, we've had some major price reductions throughout the fleet. It's not, you know, the opportunity to maybe experience Oceania is one right now where we have reduced a lot of those costs across the different sailings throughout. Now, one thing that we do have in place for you, and again for protection, is that if you decide to make a booking from now through to the end of the month, and you decide to go on a sailing that's before October of next year, we will allow you to cancel that sailing with up to 15 days before the sailing itself, and allow you to be protected with a full future travel cruise credit. A little bit more of the details here is that so this has actually just been recently altered to 15 days prior to departure. Before it was 48 hours, but it gives you that peace of mind where if you do decide to book something for next summer or next fall and you do want to change your mind, we will give you that protection back to you for that reason there. As mentioned yesterday, we just launched our Europe and North America 2022 collection. In that, there are some absolutely beautiful sailings. As mentioned, we're going back up into the Black Sea. We're going into Archangel as well. We have fantastic sailings with many overnights in St. Petersburg and into the Baltic. These have proved really popular. And as mentioned too, those close to home sailings going up the St. Lawrence or going into Alaska are proving really popular as well. So I'd really recommend chatting with Derek to see if there's options that far out that you'd like to look at too. And as well, we have an exclusive partnership with Derek and with TPI, where we have exclusive amenities available to you on board, where it's either prepaid gratuities on many different other types of sailings. And we also have some exclusive savings as well over and above, which are exclusive to EB Travel Services and TPI. And also just to let you know, we will have our Black Friday upgrade sale coming to us, and that's a 4-category upgrade sale. So there's many opportunities where you might be able to purchase a Ocean View category cabin and get upgraded to the cost, or you're able to buy a veranda cabin and pay the Ocean View category. So there's some really great opportunities there. And again, we're conscious of where you want to be right now. If you're not quite in that phase, you know, please keep dreaming with us. But if you're thinking that there's some opportunity for out there, really, this 4-category upgrade sale has been proven really, really popular, especially new to brand clients that we've got coming with us. It's proven really, really popular with them. And really, just remember what you love about traveling. As I mentioned, whatever position you are in right now, we are here to support you along the way. If it's you just thinking about going to the Taj Mahal and you've put those plans on pause right now, we'll be here for you through the future to when we get back to a safe environment to travel in. And we really do hope that you may consider Oceania as part of those travel plans in the future. So I really do thank you very much for taking the time out of your day to listen. I'm going to stop sharing the screen here so Derek and I will pop back up, and thank you.
Wow. I tell you, I want to go tomorrow. I want to try every itinerary there is. I tell you, every spot that Oceania has is a place that I want to go. So we will have to talk. But seriously, Guillaume, just an absolutely fabulous product that Oceania is offering. Some wonderful specials for people to consider, like you say, when they're ready to go back to traveling again. You have some great options there for them, and I must say, you know, hopefully people will consider Oceania as their choice of cruise line to start out and build those memories again with their travel. So thank you very much for presenting that to us today.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much.
You talked about the drinks, and there were some packages that you have. You know, you had that program where it includes drinks and that. Is there something outside of that that people have an option for as well?
So yeah, we have a few different types of drinks packages. The one thing with Oceania, we're very tailorable. So, you know, if, for example, you want to have all-inclusive drink package, that's available for us or that's available for you to be able to purchase. And generally, the one reason we're not an all-inclusive cruise line is it kind of talks to our guests in terms of how intrepid they tend to be. we have a lot of guests where they're like, we might have a glass of wine with dinner or with lunch, but we're going to be out and about during the afternoon, so the all-inclusive package is not of a value to us. So as I say, we're generally quite tailorable to your needs. For example, if Mr. Smith drinks and Mrs. Smith doesn't drink, we'll allow Mr. Smith to buy our all-inclusive package, but Mrs. Smith is not obligated to buy that. Again, we want that level of comfort for our guests. Basically, the only thing that you're really paying for whilst you're on board is going to be alcoholic beverages. Beyond that, pot, coffee, it kind of goes into our mentality. The less that the guest has to pull out the key card, then the more comfortable that they'll be. Yeah. And in addition to that as well, we'll allow guests to bring up to 6 bottles of wine on board with them prior to the cruise as well. So that's to be consumed in the cabin. If you do want to take on a special bottle with you to have it with one of our beautiful meals, then in the restaurant there's a standard corkage fee. But if you're happy enough just to have a glass of wine in the cabin and leave the bottle there, then we'll allow you to bring up to 6 bottles of wine with you at no cost. And again, it goes into that comfort level. Our guests are intrepid. If they're on a port of call, if they're in Bordeaux overnight and they're going to buy a bottle of Chateau Margaux, we're not going to be rummaging through their bags to take that off of them so that they can get it at the end of the cruise. So yeah, we're here for that comfort level. We're here to try and deliver that memory for the guest, and the less rules and regulations we put in place in that regards, then the more comfort our guests tend to have.
The wellness is a big topic these days, and people are wanting to know what cruise lines and destinations and all that are doing with regard to wellness programs such as yogas, and you did touch upon the fitness program and so on.
Yes.
What exactly is involved with your wellness program?
So we integrate that kind of throughout the Oceania experience. So that goes into the destinations, into the cuisine, and into onboard. So free access into our gyms to start off with, and free fitness classes as well. So there's a variety of different types of fitness classes that are available to you that will be listed off each day. We've integrated some short excursions to focus on that wellness side. So that might be kayaking through the fjords in Alaska. It may be like Pilates on the beach in Thailand. It may be a yoga class in the Caribbean. So we've really focused on that side. And then on the food side, it's not all about this rich cuisine. We have a really fantastic option available to our guests. And of the 3 master chefs that we actually employ, one of our master chefs turned vegan the year previous, and he wanted to do something different for Oceania. So we're one of the few at sea to have a full vegan galley and plant-based options. So we have over 250 different vegetarian, plant-based, and vegan options available on our menus. Obviously not all at the same time, but that will be integrated throughout the cruise. And again, this is another thing that we're very, very conscious of as well, and work with you as guests. If there's any allergies, we will work diligently with you to the point where if the allergy is serious enough, we'll actually have our maitre d' and our head chef sit down with you at the start of the cruise to work out an itemized menu that would work for you. But beyond that, for allergies like celiac or things like that, we will register all that information prior to getting on board, and it'll be provided through that way as well. So the fitness and wellness is something that's integrated through our pillars as well.
One time when you went cruising, you went to the port, you got in this lineup, and you zigzagged all the way through, depending on the cruise line you were with and how many passengers on board. So what if I'm heading to the dock and going on board? What is your check-in process, and how, what kind of time frame can people expect to be going from the dock into their cabin?
It's a good question. I mean, because we have fewer guests, that's a lot more of a streamlined process. So, I'll just talk from personal experience as well. So I was on our 1,250 passenger vessel going out of Miami. So a larger port, obviously. And because it was a Caribbean sailing, it was one of those sailings that was pretty much at capacity. There was a time that I was allocated, and from that time I arrived at the port to get all my information processed through and to get on board. I would say we were no more than 30 minutes at maximum. And that's a big difference as well for a guest too, is when we dock in port and you're going in with only 680 passengers at capacity, you're getting off in a matter of minutes. It's not one of these things where we're calling group one and now we're calling group two. Again, it's that ease of the process that we have for a guest who simply want to walk off. It's an easy, streamlined process and a rapid process. And I think a lot of people, again, moving into kind of this post-COVID world, this is why the small ship luxury of Oceania is really appealing to a lot of guests. I have conversations with many different advisors throughout North America, and one of the big things that I'm getting is people are saying, yes, we're still interested, we still want to travel, but kind of gone are the days that we want to be on a vessel of 3,000 or 4,000 people. We're looking for something a bit more manageable to ourselves to deliver that experience, and really at Oceania, that's what we're hoping to be able to provide to you.
And how about portage? As far as how many people are actually taking your bags or handling the bags, because again, in post-COVID, people are concerned about.
Of course, yeah.
I'm sure your staff will be, all wearing gloves and.
Yeah.
So what's the expectation there?
So right now, it's a good question. We haven't had those details finalized just as of yet. There's so many different aspects that we want to work through. Our owner and CEO, Frank Del Rio, one of the things that he's saying right now is that we're not in a race to be back in the water first. We want to make sure we're doing things right for our guests to be able to go out. So there's a lot of different details that we're going to take into consideration when getting back on board. For example, already we have replaced all our air conditioning units with medical grade filtration systems available in those. So those have all been retrofitted in this meantime. As we move forward, we'll obviously have more regulations put in place. And this will be spelled out for all the guests, especially when their final cruise documents come through. That'll all be listed out there as well. And as I say, we have our traveler assurance program in place right now. So if you do decide to book something and it's going to be booked prior to October of next year, if something just doesn't feel correct for you, you can cancel up to that 15 days prior, and you have that future cruise credit, which you can apply to something where you feel more at ease at that point there. We have a very flexible cancellation schedule right now where, if you want to cancel, if you're booking something into 2022 and you need to cancel up to 90 days prior, that refund is fully refundable back to you. So, or should I say that deposit is fully refundable back to you. And we've tried to be accommodating as possible. We know obviously travel's maybe more difficult for people these days, but we know people will come back.
And what's your deposit?
So we price in Canadian and US. So we deposits are $1,000 per person Canadian or $750 per person US.
Okay. Well, Guillaume, it's been absolute wonderful to have you on board today.
Thank you.
And all of the information that you were able to share with our viewers. And I look forward to hopefully having some of those viewers be part of sailing at some point over the next year and a half to 2 years and beyond. Thank you very much for taking the time today. And I know it's midday for you out there in Vancouver now, and it's almost supper time here in Newfoundland. But I really do appreciate having you on board here today.
Thank you, and we really welcome you coming on board as well. So if anybody's interested in looking at our new 2022 itineraries or into the Black Friday, please be in touch with Derek, and Derek will be in touch with me, and we'll make sure we can try and get you a bottle of wine on board or something along those lines.
All right. And for those who are listening, I just want to let you know, actually tomorrow we're actually having a special edition of Derry's Travel Chats. We will be talking with retired General Rick Killier, who's the former Chief of Defence Staff for Canada. And we'll be talking about the Victoria Cross and some military medals that he would like to see people receive. And we'll also talk about other tours of battlefields and so on in Europe and his experience with that. So stay tuned tomorrow, 2:00 Newfoundland time, for that special edition of Derry's Travel Chats. Again, thank you very much and have a great afternoon. Take care.